So hi guys, my name is Halsa. Good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Today I'm going to explain to you about the 3 books that I've read regarding about Islamic pop culture in Indonesia and in mass media of Indonesia. Like what I've said before, the 3 books that I've read, or I will try to explain to you guys right now, have a similar general theme, which is how Islam is reflected in pop culture of Indonesia. The first book that we're going to talk about is Islamic Pop Culture in Indonesia, which is written by Claudia Nefsalus from Universitat Bern. I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong, and I'm sorry if I kept looking on the back side of the camera because my teleprompter is there. This book generally explores different types of jilbab or veil, or what we call hijab right now, including the connection between those veil styles and self-representation amongst Indonesian Muslims. So like why people wear sporty hijab, or why people wear veil, or why people wear what we call cadar, and other types of veil that was present in the early 2000s. Although this book is the result of an anthropological study, it also includes the historical background of why we have so many different types of veil in Indonesia and how veil are used from time to time, starting from the Dutch colonial time up until 2007, which Claudia Nefsalus was researching. For example, I think this is my favorite part of the book, is the explanation about why is it such an uncommon thing for people to wear hijab in the New Order. Because during the New Order, according to the author, wearing veil wasn't a common thing, as it is sometimes seen as a threat to Indonesia's ideology, which is Pancasila, hence also a threat to Suharto. So wearing a veil at that time was considered an Islamic fundamentalist act, different than in the New Order during the Reformation, which is now. Wearing hijab was steadily becoming more and more common, especially amongst Indonesia's youth. The author also argues with data on how many Indonesian college students are wearing veil compared in the early 1990s. So if you are an Indonesian college student, you will realize by now that most of your friends are already wearing hijab rather than you. And if you ask about people, I mean like myself, why am I not wearing a hijab? The response will automatically because I'm not yet prepared for it, or I'm not yet wearing it. So it implies that we are going to wear that sometimes. It is also a representation of more and more common or acceptance towards veil in Indonesian society. This book explored the relationship between pop culture, identity, political background, or anything that made up why veil is what it is today. Although this book is basically a research, I think many people will find it an interesting book regardless of its nature. Moving on, by the way, I'm sorry if I changed too much because I have to change the position regarding about the lighting, and Surabaya is getting hotter, so this is why I'm sweaty. I'm so sorry, I'm so sweaty. Back to the topic. The second book that we're gonna talk about is Mainstreaming Islam in Indonesia, Television, Identity and the Middle Class by Inaya Rahkamani. This book consists of 6 chapters, and like the title suggests, this book mainly focuses on the social and cultural impact of the development of commercialism regarding Islamic culture in Indonesia. So what is commercialism regarding to Islamic culture in Indonesia, you may ask? It will be explained later on, but on its own, I think it's a comprehensive book that not only talks about the cultural phenomenon of Islam and the rise of Muslim middle class in Indonesia, but it also contains a lot of historical background in the quote-unquote making of an Islamic identity in Indonesia since the Dutch colonial times. So back to the topic, what is commercialism in Islamic culture? It is best explained in my favorite chapter out of the 6 chapters that I've read, called The Television and the Dakwah Supermarket, which is the second chapter, where the author talks about the expansion of a quote-unquote Islamic market since the mid-1990s that almost always targeted middle class for some reason, middle class Muslim, from soap operas to music shows. So it has a wide variety of range, wide variety of programs in like television, especially private television. The quote-unquote dakwah supermarket in the title, which is, I think the title is amazing by itself, refers to the fact that an expansion in Indonesia's private television has made it a rating war, one television to another, and a necessity to have a quote-unquote dakwah program, one of those that is present during the late 1990s to early 2000s. One of those dakwah celebrity that are commercializing Islam is Ajim, which I think we may know by now. The commercialism of private television is the foundation why there is so many dakwah program in the television right now. The head-to-head rating system has since made way for dakwah reality TV show, such as, I think the most famous of all, I think, dakwah competition. Like if you see television right now and you turn it on, there will be a dakwah competition, especially amongst children. The last thing I want to talk about regarding about this book is this is considered as a heavier read rather than the two books that we're going to talk about right now. I do believe this book will shed some light if you are interested in how television or in how Indonesian television shape our culture on itself. I think this is a good book because it will shed some light about how television is shaped during the Reformation era. Okay, the last but definitely not least on what books we're going to talk about today is the Gender and Islam in Indonesia Cinema, written by Alicia Izharuddin. Again, I am so sorry if I pronounce your name wrong because I'm very bad at pronunciations, especially pronunciations that have an Arabic sound to it. I'm sorry. This book itself consists of 7 chapters, mainly focuses on the distinction between quote-unquote general movies and the quote-unquote Islamic movies in Indonesia. Although the book's title was Gender and Islam in Indonesia Cinema, I didn't see a lot of gender studies incorporated within the books itself. So after reading like 7 chapters of the books, I conclude that most of the books talks about the distinction or the differentiation within Islamic cinema and the general cinema that is present in Indonesia. Why this book was made, according to the author, was there is a need for research regarding gender in Indonesia's Islamic narrative, especially about the representation of gender in Indonesia's cinema. I might argue that it doesn't translate well to the finished work, but regardless of that, this book is still amazing if you guys are interested in television and mass media in Indonesia. So moving on, this book mainly talks about quote-unquote Islamic movies and what kind of movies, what kind of narrative, what kind of plot or storylines is considered as it is, like what make it different than ordinary movies that is present in Indonesia during the 2000s. The author call it a general Islamic parameter, so they often make a parameter. According to the author, the general idea of Islamic movies in Indonesia is to somewhat relate to the middle class that has been increasing since the late 1990s. So again, about the middle class Muslim that is present in Indonesia. So that is why I categorize from the first book to the last book, because I think they have all a similarity amongst them, I think. Don't judge me on that, okay? Islamic film itself, according to the author or the book, it is a newer version of Islamic commercialism that is present in Indonesia. The unique thing that I found in the book about Indonesian film is that almost all Islamic movies premieres during Islamic events such as Eid al-Fitr. premiering in Eid al-Fitri was present during Sang Pencerah and Ketika Cinta Bertasbih. So the interesting part that I found throughout reading this book is that the actor itself have to have some sort of religious image during the promotion of the film itself. For example, Lukman Sardi in Sang Pencerah, which is the main actor in that movie, have to keep his quote-unquote scandal. It's not a scandal, I think. He converted from Islam to Christianity in the middle of the promotion of this movie. It have to be kept under wrap because the production house of the film think that will jeopardize the movie itself. Okay, according to this book, I think this book requires a lot of understanding of historical context, and the language that is used is also kind of complicated. So if you're not a fan of complicated research book, I would not recommend this book to you. So I think that the 3 books that I already talked about are a great way to help you understand more about Islam in Indonesia, and also how the media portrays Islam and is affecting how people look at a certain religion, especially Islam in Indonesia. I hope this has been useful to you. My name is Halsa, and adios!